Your wife was walking with another man.
One day, I was called out by a friend my wife and I both know. That's impossible. After all, we had just celebrated our 5th wedding anniversary and were envied by everyone as a loving couple. I dismissed it as nonsense. But then, my friend showed me a photo he had taken on the spot. Looking at the image on his smartphone, I was stunned. The woman in the photo was clearly my wife, and the man next to her was, of all people, Greg, my boss at work. My name is Tom. I'm 35 and work at a real estate company. I met my wife, Karen, at a matchmaking party. Drawn to her modest and demure personality, I pursued her aggressively. It seemed like Karen finally gave in to my persistence, and that's how I secured our married life.
I still want to enjoy our life together.
When she said that, I really wanted kids, but I respected her wishes. She was working too, so we had some financial flexibility, and we chose to be dinks, a couple married without children. But just when I hoped that Karen's mind would change, I was confronted with a photo of her secret meeting. I put on a brave face in front of my friend, but I was overwhelmed by the reality before me. It took me a while to sort out my feelings, but I decided to get the photo from my friend. Then, when my wife returned from work, I confronted her about it. What is this photo all about? I intended to ask her very calmly, but negative emotions overflowed, and I ended up pressing her for answers. What's this photo? It's a misunderstanding. I had hoped she would say something like that, but even when presented with evidence, she just kept silent. I lost my temper and shouted, "Karen, don't just stay quiet, say something." However, nothing changed. She remained silent as if affirming the affair. I had already prepared the divorce papers. I handed them to her, packed the bare minimum of work clothes and casual wear, and stormed out of the house. It's absurd that the person who was cheated on has to leave the home, but I couldn't do otherwise. Now that I think about it, I guess I was hoping that Karen would come after me.
Forgive me, for I was wrong.
If she said that, maybe we could start over as a couple. But contrary to my expectations, Karen didn't come after me at all. My male pride was already deeply wounded. In a rush, I had left home and ended up staying at my best friend's place that night. My best friend didn't ask any questions and just let me sleep in a spare room quietly. I was grateful for the rest, but my mind was full of anger. So much that it felt like the ceiling was spinning. The man in the photo with Karen, my boss Greg, had been a benefactor to me for many years. And he and we were family friends. He had a very beautiful wife, Naomi, and I'm pretty sure they were dinks like us. We had even gone on barbecues and trips together, but to think that he would have a double affair with my wife. Tomorrow at work, I'm going to punch him. Lying in bed, I clenched my fists tightly. Unfortunately, the showdown with Greg was destined to remain a fantasy. The next day, an event so significant happened that it made all my anger seem like a farce. The following day, as I was getting ready to go to work, my phone rang shrilly with a call from an unknown number. I cringe and answer the phone when I receive a call from an unknown number.
Is this Mr. Tom Sanders, husband of Mrs. Karen Sanders? Your wife was in a car that fell into the harbor, and she has been rescued but is in critical condition and unconscious. Please come to the emergency hospital immediately.
What a shock from the hospital. Karen had been in an accident. I couldn't believe it, my knees shaking uncontrollably. Seeing my condition, my best friend got worried. He even took a half day off work to drive me to the hospital. I barely made it on trembling legs, only to find that Karen had just passed away, as peacefully as if she were asleep. Overwhelmed by such an abrupt goodbye, I was too shocked to even cry. The last time I saw her was last night, looking downcast. I wished it was all just a nightmare, but I stood there frozen. Afterward, the nurse arranged for Karen's body to be prepared to be taken home. I sat in the waiting room, dizzy with grief, when someone else, apparently waiting for the same reason, sat next to me. Looking over, I was shocked to see it was Greg, utterly devastated. As I stood up abruptly, anger ignited within me. Why? We were living happily. If you hadn't pursued my wife, Karen might still be alive. Before I knew it, I was grabbing Greg by the shirt. I thought I might have gone mad.
It's not what you think, Tom. Please listen to me. I should have told you this before it came to this.
Greg was crying, tears of sorrow flowing. What do you mean, you bastard? I was so furious I could have strangled him, but Greg kept pleading with me to listen. Finally, I let go of him and heavily sat back down. Karen was gone. There was no need for me to be angry at him. Tears broke through like a dam had burst. Greg, too, was sobbing uncontrollably, looking even more devastated than I felt.
You're making a big mistake. Please, try to stay calm and listen to what I'm about to say. The truth is, it wasn't me who was having an affair with your wife. It wasn't me. It was my wife who was involved with her.
Honestly, I couldn't grasp what Greg was saying. Panic, I retorted. What are you talking about? Don't confuse me with weird stories at a time like this. Then Greg confronted me with an undeniable truth.
I understand how you feel because I reacted the same way when I found out. But as hard as it is to believe, it's true. Because not only was your wife in the accident, but my wife died today too.
My body wouldn't stop shaking. Even as he spoke, Greg's voice trembled with a mix of anger, regret, and sadness. Seeing him like this, all my anger towards Greg vanished. It turned out I was the only one who hadn't been told the truth. Unimaginable things had been happening without my knowledge. Apparently, Greg's wife, Naomi, had been in the same car as Karen. Naomi, too, had been brought to the same hospital in critical condition after the accident, and had sadly passed away just before. Led by Greg, I faced Naomi's body. Seeing the situation forced me to accept the undeniable fact that the two of them had been in a relationship. The shock made my knees buckle. Shock, anger, sadness all mixed together, shaking my body and unleashing unstoppable tears. Perhaps unable to watch me suffer, Greg bought me a warm coffee from a vending machine.
I'll tell you everything I know.
He said that, and waited until my trembling subsided. Then he started talking potty-mouthed.
The two of them were lesbians, but because they were worried about societal expectations, they married men. You said you pursued your wife aggressively. I did the same.
That's how it was. Suddenly, everything about Karen made sense. Her requests for separate bedrooms, her pleas to wait on having children, and her surprising lack of affection towards me. If she was not interested in men at all, then all her actions were understandable. And Greg had learned about their lesbian relationship from Karen. That photo my friend took must have been from around that time. I hastily showed him the photo on my smartphone.
Yes, that's when I confronted them about their relationship, Greg continued. Karen seriously asked me. She wanted to be with Naomi.
At that moment, Greg had been furious. Even I would dismiss it as absurd. But Greg said,
It seems that they both realized at first sight that they were lesbians. It was like a bolt of lightning, and neither one of them could stop the feelings that were bubbling up. I didn't know what to make of it when I heard the story.
Greg's expression looked pained, and it was hard to watch. I was surprised by how assertive Karen had been towards Greg, usually so quiet. She had never been so firm in expressing her opinion in front of me. That's why I loved Karen, who always gently affirmed me, even more. I had planned to live with her forever. I was convinced of that. Karen must have really loved Naomi. And they must have been deeply troubled about their feelings being different from other women's, about the expectations of parents and people around them to marry a man, have children, and build a normal family, and about the traditional, rigid values that insist a couple must consist of a man and a woman. And surely, they must have felt considerable guilt for deceiving their partners. I remembered them chatting away next to each other at the barbecue. Karen, usually reserved, laughed cheerfully, and for once, she drank alcohol and got tipsy. That was the real her, and realizing that after she was gone only added to my pain. After I calmed down, I heard from the police about the circumstances of the accident at the time. When the car fell into the harbor, they found them holding hands when they discovered the bodies. Their hands were tightly clasped, almost impossible to separate. Hearing that, I felt like my knees were going to give out. I was overwhelmed with the desire to apologize to Karen. I just kept yelling at her without trying to understand her feelings at all. If I had actually listened to Karen's side of the story back then, maybe things wouldn't have gotten so messed up. They were definitely on the brink of stepping into true love, so they could hold hands and live together in the next world. Once all the arrangements were done, I brought Karen's body home. After the contractors left, even though only a day had passed since I left, I never imagined the situation would become like this. I couldn't bear the almost insane situation anymore, and just as I was about to have a cup of coffee, I noticed a piece of paper and a bank book on the table. I gently flipped over the paper. It was a farewell letter from Karen to me.
So Tom, I'm really sorry for making you mad today. I thought you wouldn't believe me even if I told you the truth, so all I could do was stay silent. Please let me confess at the very end. I've been dating Greg's wife, Naomi, for 2 years now. I know you probably won't believe me even if I say so. Honestly, I was confused at first about being attracted to Naomi. Since elementary school, I've never been interested in boy bands or boys themselves. I always felt more comfortable around girls or female seniors. I don't know why, but being around boys just scared me. As an adult, when I met you, Tom, and started dating you at the encouragement of people around us, I felt relieved by your passion for me and your willingness to listen without pressuring me. Our married life was peaceful and smooth until we met Naomi at a barbecue. I don't know why, but the moment I saw her, we couldn't take our eyes off each other. It felt like finding my soulmate, the one destined for me in this world. Naomi felt the same way. While we appeared to get along well with our spouses, we were thrilled to meet each other when alone. Even if people called it lesbianism, we couldn't turn back. In our situation where we couldn't confess to our partners, we were eventually exposed by Greg. Despite my strong plea not to break up with Naomi, I was surprised to finally be able to express my true self and opinions. But when you, Tom, also questioned me, I finally realized the seriousness of the situation. What Naomi and I were doing was considered double adultery and homosexuality, plunging our spouses into the depths of despair. After you left home, I talked to Naomi. I'm not dissatisfied with my husband. I don't want to hurt anyone or make anyone unhappy. But I want to live true to my feelings. While crying, we reached a decision. You must already know about this determination, Tom. I've been so happy living with you, Tom. But now, I want to pursue my own happiness with Naomi. So, as you read this letter, no matter how terrible the outcome, I should be happy. I'm sorry for being so selfish until the end. Tom, please be happy. Karen.
I lay beside the cold Karen, alternating between reading her letter and crying my eyes out. Karen and Naomi's decision was a desperate gamble. Even if we had been informed beforehand, what could Tom and Greg, in our positions as spouses, have possibly done? Surely, the moment we heard, we would have panicked and tried to separate the two. And I'm sure they saw it all coming. Yo, nobody is at fault. They finally found happiness. 3 months after the shocking accident, Greg and I went together to visit their graves. He also had a letter from Naomi at home. Reading it, he felt the deep bond between them, something we couldn't understand. Greg and I talked it over and bought adjacent plots. It was our way of atoning, as spouses who couldn't understand them until this ending. I stood in front of Karen's grave and closed my eyes. The tears just wouldn't stop flowing. All I could think of were the happy memories with Karen. I thought I loved my wife more than anyone, but maybe she was suppressing her true self and was actually suffering. I'm sorry I didn't realize it when you were alive. I apologized silently as I lit the candle. I hope they're both living happily in heaven now. Greg and I said that, looking up at the sky, and smiled.